Welcome to Urban U, where stories of school and city unfold at the nation's largest urban university, the City University of New York. This month, we learn from a Bronx Community College scholar all about the historical free black communities of Brooklyn. We see the story of a multi-generational CUNY family with a connection to the New York Yankees. And we watch a short film about a BMCC student. That and so much more. Stay tuned for Urban U.
Really does center ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So really a complicated network of folks who were just really committed to a more just world. Free black communities were arguing for some of the very freedoms that we perhaps take for granted today, like the right to vote, birthright citizenship, the right to get a job that reflects your talents and capabilities. What they did center in terms of their neighborhoods are some of the things that we would value today. The right to space, the right to be able to gather and create community. And so the themes that we see in Brooklyn in the early 19th century are the church. The black church is at the center of everything. It is at the center of faith and politics, a mutual aid society so that members of the community can support one another on hard times, and of course education. Education is key throughout this century. Black people were creating ways, self-determined ways, to educate their own children. Again, when the public school was founded in Brooklyn, it would only admit white children. First black school is founded in 1815, and it's actually a private school that is founded in somebody's home. His name is Peter Kroger. Out of that school will appear three different and distinct African schools, and that's what they're named. We have an African school in what is today downtown Brooklyn, one out in Weeksville, which today is sort of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Crown Heights, and the third one is in Williamsburg. Faith is so important in the 19th century. There is a reason Brooklyn is called the city of churches. Those churches were centers of fundraising, centers to get folks on their feet when they arrived in Brooklyn. Bridge Street AWME still very much exists today. It's in Bedford-Stuyvesant. It's the oldest black church in Brooklyn. And I always say it is at the center of not just faith, but politics. It is a space for the black communities to come together and to discuss things that affected them, such as their safety, the potential of being kidnapped into the South. How are they going to organize and mobilize around the right to vote? What does property buying look like? Because of course, owning property is tied to voting. And what does education look like for their children? So all of that is happening in the black church. Newspapers were the way in which free black communities in Brooklyn and across the whole Northeast were creating community and networks. You would see advertisements for new schools, for land that was for sale, for new businesses, places that they could travel to safely if they wanted to visit Philadelphia. Where could I stay at a hotel in which, I might not be attacked? The Hodges are two brothers, and of course they're a family. It is Willis and William Hodges. And like so many New Yorkers, they're not from here originally. They're born free people of color in Norfolk, Virginia, and they will move up to Brooklyn. These are agricultural folk. They are looking for land that they can buy in order to start a new life and own property, because of course they know in order to be able to vote, they need to own that property. They end up in Williamsburg, but Willis critically will say the reason to move to Williamsburg is that it is still a village. It's a village as part of the town of Bushwick, right? It hasn't joined Brooklyn yet when they arrive. And he says the racism is less, that you can grow this city in a radical anti-slavery vision. You can establish your own schools, your own churches, your own businesses, and define what those businesses mean. This is still a village that is forming its infrastructure and trying to figure out what they stand for. And so free black communities seize that opportunity to really shape those streets and neighborhoods and think about, well, who are we in Williamsburg? What do we stand for? I do think that self-determination in Brooklyn had really something to do with that this is a city on the rise, right? It's not Manhattan. I would argue that black Brooklynites are seizing that opportunity to really make the city that is something that they would want to live in, and they're doing that through entrepreneurship. I would say the legacy of that entrepreneurial spirit is still felt today. If you think about Spike Lee's production house, if you think about that Fort Greene arts and music movement that came out of that neighborhood, all of that idea that I can make it locally and I can make it here has great roots in the 19th century. I would say that pride and that idea of activism and that can-do spirit, all of it has its roots in the 19th century. Shirley Chisholm, for example, is only possible because of that can-do spirit of taking politics into their own hands. You think about the Congress of Racial Equality, SNCC, Black Panthers have huge roots in Brooklyn. Thinking about the ways in which the right to space and to Black life and liberty, all of that's rooted in Brooklyn.
For me, CUNY became my family. I was there every day for my classes. I met my friends at CUNY when I first came to this country. I started my career in sports through CUNY. It became family because it felt like one.
Lena Cruz knows the feeling of family well. The oldest of three, she came to New York City as a teenager and found a second home at CUNY. What makes her story stand out is how it became a family affair.
My aunt and uncle, they were already in New York. They were part of this amazing program at Hostos Community College. It was like the ESL intensive program.
Lena began at Hostos too. As she built her own success, her family members came one by one, taking advantage of the CUNY colleges and curriculums.
My cousin then went to do history in Hunter College, and then my sister went to do international business at Queens College. My parents, they also, at some point, they realized, hey, our daughters are there. Let's move to the U.S. with them. They went to LaGuardia Community College to learn English. My younger brother, he finished his high school here in Queens, and then he went to Queens College for his bachelor, and he recently graduated from Media and Digital Studies there. My uncle went to do economics at Hunter College. My aunt then went to Lehman College to do social work, and then she went then to do her master's at Hunter College.
So what brought Lena to New York City as a teenager? She shares her story.
I was born and raised in Colombia, in South America. I grew up watching sports. My father was a professional soccer player and then became a professional soccer coach in Colombia. My mom, she was a track and field coach, bringing people to the Olympics. And I was in the track and field team with my mom as a coach. I represented Colombia a couple of times in race walking.
But when Lena didn't make it to the World Championship, she decided to pivot.
I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to the United States. I'm going to learn English. My first few days, I was like, I will just sit down, look at the board, and write down everything that was on the board because I did not understand a word. One of the professors, she told the director, hey, I think you need to put her in a different program. She's not up to this level. And he's like, let's give her a chance. And at the end of the program, I was top student.
How did Lena go from not understanding a word to becoming the top student?
I did everything. I went to tutoring. I asked questions. I talked to the professors after class. I really wanted to excel.
And that's exactly what she did. Lena excelled. At student government, fundraising, she made the dean's list, student engagement, a medal recipient, and what turned out to be a life-changing internship.
Hostos did a partnership with the New York Yankees in which they wanted to find their first ever intern for the Latino Affairs Department. It was a very long interview process, and I got it.
The man who created the program that would launch Lena's career in sports was then Hostos president Felix Matos Rodriguez. Today, he's the chancellor of CUNY.
During that process, I also got to know him and kind of like get his advice on things. And I've stayed in touch with him through my years at the Yankees.
Lena's internship turned into a decade-long career with the Bronx Bombers.
When I graduated, they made me an offer to be a coordinator. Then I became the manager of the department. And then I started to lead all of the multicultural affairs, like programs, anything that had to do with the emerging markets, from like marketing, events, community outreach. I was across that.
While Lena's star continued to rise at the Yankees, she also continued her education, obtaining several degrees.
My associates in Hostos, then bachelor's at Baruch, then I got a certificate from Hunter, and then I went back to Baruch for my master's.
While Lena loved working for the Yankees, there was something else she wanted.
I want to be part of history. I want to be part of legacy. The Yankees, they already have a legacy. New York City Football Club started in 2015. When I saw the team, obviously I'm coming from Colombia, which is like, you know, soccer is a huge part of our like roots and like cultural, and I wanted to be part of that.
When an opportunity opened up, Lena reached out, and the rest is history. Today, Lena is New York City Football Club's Director of Partnership Marketing, and they're less than 2 years from opening the city's first soccer-specific stadium.
It's a very huge project. It's historical not only for the club, for the sport, but for the city.
Working in sports has turned out to be a family affair, too.
My sister currently does operations for FIFA. My brother, he is a goalkeeper coach. My mom, she is a coach for Queens College, cross country and track and field teams. My dad is a soccer coach at a charter school.
Lena's career in sports led to another career as well, as wife and mother, having met her husband, radio and TV personality, Rafael Bello, while working with the Yankees. Today, they have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter, Antonella, the start of the next generation. From the classroom to a career in sports and as a wife and mother, CUNY is where it all started for Lena Cruz and her family. A place that nurtured talent, fueled ambition, and opened the door for her entire family to thrive. For Urban U, I'm Linda Simidian.
BMCI stands for the Place, Memory, and Culture Incubator. Our students walk down the hill. They engage with partners like Save Harlem Now, the Caribbean American Cultural Institute, and work with those people in order to understand how they see preservation, and then work with them to create proposals that are on the one hand rooted in community needs and also rooted in design, invention, and speculation. We want to think in other ways as well about preservation. You know, what might it be like to think about how a historic artifact might inspire a student to think about a new way of making a street or a new way of thinking about a storefront.
This was a project in the Harlem African Burial Ground studio, particularly looking at the Harlem African Burial Ground as a site for a potential memorial. This is our proposal, and we kind of physically propose these large concrete masses that are supposed to be like echo chambers or burial chambers. So we kind of speculated a bit on what the burial ground might have looked like when it was a burial ground, and then how these architectural impositions like a military barracks, cinema, currently the MTA bus depot might have affected literally the ground that was there, and how it kind of has a very large impact on the memory of this place. So I grew up in Harlem. I've lived on the same block my whole life. So I have like a very rooted understanding of this place. Harlem has this rich culture that kind of needs to be preserved, unlike other neighborhoods which kind of get like a first priority in preservation.
This exhibit that's behind me really wraps the entire first floor of our school and is exhibiting 6 or 7 courses, including 5 design studios that are looking at a number of different sites throughout Harlem that each, I think, in their own way, exemplify this idea of generative history. So you have everything from the Living Lenox studio right behind me that was looking at ideas of adaptive reuse along Lenox Avenue and existing buildings, to the Generative History's 125th Street studio, which was really looking at the city and this iconic boulevard as an impetus to produce new ideas for architecture or even the design of objects and spaces. It's been this kind of gathering place for this ecosystem of community partners. This includes local preservationists, artists, culture workers, and then our extended community to start to work together and then for new connections to be formed between them.
For BMCI, I had the honor of working with the Maisels Documentary Center, doing a project that I called the Maisels and Cafe Mello Expansion Project. This gives an opportunity for a community-based organization to kind of stay steadfast in a world of gentrification. And I think that presence in being able to tell a story of Black legacy is ever more important in a community like this. We need to keep these cultural institutions to, again, pay homage to Black history in Harlem while advancing our buildings into a place where they're healthy to be. That comes from engaging with the community.
We worked with Uptown Grand Central. After the studio course completed, the director, Carrie King, is now working with some students to do a small business histories project where they're documenting some local business owners in their business storefronts that have been in the community for decades, some of them, and their story has never been told. This is a very diverse school of architecture. This is one of the most diverse schools of architecture in the country. And Harlem is, among other things, a very iconic, historic Black community. Marginalized communities, Black communities, have not always been able to think at the scale of architecture. It takes a lot of investment to do that. So part of the idea of generative history is to really think about preservation alongside of futures which incorporate those communities' voices into the design of the built environment.
I think this kind of work has been pretty pivotal in my thinking in school, and it's something that I'm trying to continue thinking, not just in like the mission of the PMCI, but also thinking about how these histories play an important part in how we design for the future.
We are being transformed here at Spitzer by the PMCI, and we will continue to be transformed by it internally, and we will also continue to share what we've learned.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, and your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap.
My name is Caitlin Waldron Scott. I'm 22 and my major is animation and motion graphics. I didn't take the traditional route of attending college straight out of high school. Since then, I've been helping my mother with her in-home daycare business and babysitting to make money to go to college. My family is from a little island called Barbados. Everybody knows everybody, and my grandmother raised 6 children on this island, and others like they were her own. That same compassion has helped me become the person that I am today. Dorothy farmed sugarcane to support her family and later went on to own her own shack on Rockaway Beach, which is a place where I spent most of my summers in Barbados. This beach is why I call Barbados my home. In 2021, my brother, mother, and sister and I experienced losing a loved one in our homes. My grandma had passed away from battling cancer, and this was hard on everyone, but especially my mother. I just remember the men and women in EMT gear and their loud footsteps on the wooden floors trying to bring my grandmother back to life. But I also remember her hopes and dreams for me. Dorothy has saw me progress as a student, as an artist, and as a person. And her love for me wanted to do things for myself to show that I love myself. So I decided to attend school after her passing. Throughout my life, art has been an overwhelming theme in my development and growth as a person. I love drawing portraits, figures, and sculpting, but access to resources was scarce. Growing up with a single mother meant we could only have what we truly needed, but I just couldn't see my life without that creative factor, and I knew my major and career had to align with that. I look at storytelling as a way to understand people and the choices that we decide to make. Capturing a sense of realism is how I like to conduct my storytelling. The realism showcasing stories like my grandma, Dorothy, on Rockaway Beach can allow the audience to connect with lived experiences and observe stories through a mirror or through a perspective of a window. As a kid, I was sheltered, so my mother knew the unsafe, environment that we lived in, and she wanted to protect me from that. But I really wanted to venture out and, go outside. And at the time, my mom was a single mother, and she still is, but I would see my dad very often as a kid, and I really wanted him in my presence at that time. So I went out looking for my dad in the streets of New York City. I knew I wasn't going to get far. So I went to different corner stores and bodegas, and I kind of just tried to write down the things that I saw as a kid and how little I was, and from that childlike perspective. And the search for my dad was a very short one because my mom did end up finding me in a cop car, so we ended up going home. But writing and reflecting on that memory kind of reinstated who was physically here supporting and taking care of the family, and who got my back. It's my mom. Even though I was looking for my dad, my mom was always here. I live in Bed-Stuy, and at the time in the early 2000s, it wasn't gentrified yet. It was kind of in the midst of, and I would go to school in downtown Brooklyn, which is a wealthy neighborhood. So the juxtaposition between here and there was very evident and apparent. And I kind of resented my upbringing, but I knew that my mother was trying. And that's something that I realized when I was much, much, much older and not a little puny baby. When I see gentrification affecting my neighborhood today, it upsets me, but I know that the New York City that I live in is not going to be there forever. It's going to change, forever changing. I just hope people respect the community and adapt to the culture that was already set, and just respect people overall. The way I like to approach my art is looking at my lived experience and trying to kind of articulating that through the use of different mediums, art, painting, sculpting, you name it. So the drawing of the window was the final piece that I did in my intro to art class. I started drawing the window because it's a place that I often looked out, when I was a kid, just mesmerized by the sky and all living things just passing by. And on that day, my brother actually got jumped for the first time. He was in middle school, and I was just so upset and sad. And I just didn't like seeing my brother feel so defeated and shut down. And when drawing that piece, it was hard for me to finish, but I knew I had to get it done for the grade. It was almost midnight, and you can kind of see glimmers of light, but I didn't want to capture that in the window because I didn't feel that on that day. No one did in the family, so yeah. I feel like our bodies and our brains kind of capture like a map of our experiences and follow us throughout life. So I think it's important to try and like process whatever has happened to you in the past, or just trying to articulate it in a way that makes you, I guess, a better person ultimately. With the help of my professors from BMCC, I fell in love with film analysis, animation, and graphic design. My animation style has painterly elements to it, and that is something that I apply to my drawings. So I designed a flat art style graphic design poster for my intro to graphic design class, and I really wanted to show myself in a light that's kind of more bright and and light, and kind of just capturing me as a person. And you can kind of see that with the keywords that I put up there, dark humor or dry humor. So people knew who it was. Like, I did want to be seen as a Black woman. So, and even back in high school, people called me shotgun nostrils because my nostrils are kind of big. They're kind of big. They're kind of huge. So I didn't take offense to it. It was funny. It was really funny when I made the poster because you can really see my nostrils, like they're really like pronounced. And that's kind of a Black characteristic, like big nostrils and big lips. And yeah, it's just something I just wanted to showcase so people knew who I was. I plan to one day start my own animation and film studio and build a diverse team of artists who have a myriad of talents and can be a part of shifting pop culture. I would really want to work with other people in the future because I feel like there's more to people than what meets the eye, and you're not the only one living in this world. We live in it together, so I feel like our stories need to be shared and heard, and people should be given the access and platform to do that. I want to champion other families like my own and tell the stories of those who have been overlooked in film history. The stories produced need to connect with the diverse teams within the company. With my own film and animation studio, I aim to connect with college students, interns like me, and graduates too, to help them learn the business and intern at my company. I truly feel that all students need is access to support and resources in order to achieve their goals. I want to be able to provide those resources and support and a platform to the next generation of storytellers.
Thanks for watching and for being a part of the CUNY community along with us here at Urban U.